Roll call, please.
Mayor Flores.
Here.
Vice Mayor Edge. Here. Councilmember DeVries.
Here.
Councilmember Freeman.
Here.
Councilmember Jordan. Here. A quorum is present.
Thank you. Public comments. Do you have any public comments?
Yes. Valerie Eglin.
Good evening. A lot of friendly people in the audience today. I'm happy for that. I'm with Reach San Benito Parks Foundation, as you are pretty aware. And I wanted to kind of give an update on how the Parks Foundation for the county sees the parks moving forward at the moment and how it affects San Juan. So the first thing I wanted to address was that there is a vision to connect San Benito County, the communities, through a series of bicycle pedestrian paths. And this is part of the general plan, the suggestion of connectivity and creating better health and alternative ways of getting around, transportation. And some of those ideas bring around the idea of from the Pajaro to the Pinnacles. And this has kind of been a Reach mantra for a long time, where the San Benito River altogether is the watershed for the Pajaro and the Pajaro for the Monterey Bay. And there's a lot of nonprofit activity around this entire area, and people from the Bay Area and Monterey County are involved in maintaining that as an ecological system that benefits everyone for tourism and value. So we're looking at connecting the future Pajaro River Walk near the 101 highway. So there are a couple of different places on the Pajaro that would be suitable for river walks. And if that was connected through a bicycle pedestrian path to connect the Anzar School into San Juan, which we already have our bicycle path, and onto Fremont Peak and maybe over to San Juan Oaks along the hills there, and then on over to the River Parkway and to the San Benito County Regional Park. From there, we're trying to get allocations of land and easements that would involve getting to the historic park, which would be around Tres Pinas, and then from there, bicycle pedestrian accommodation through Caltrans to the Pinnacles. So what I just want to emphasize is the fact that there is this effort at connectivity that is in our general plan, and it is also specified in the Parks Plan, the General Parks Plan that was created by the first Parks and Recreation Commission for San Benito County, of which Jim West was one of those initial members. The other thing is the ANZA stakeholders reconfirmed their origins, that we have gathered the stakeholders together and are in coordination with the National Park Service, the county, and the state. So to get all of the possibilities that would create tourism and economic and health value for San Juan Bautista. So if we can get further connectivity to our bicycle path from Aromas, then we could really accommodate all of our fringe. We could bring our county greatly more together. So the other thing that would bring the county together that Reach is working on is bringing several groups together from Marin and the Nature Conservancy to have a teacher, student, riparian, let me see, I gotta get that down. Straw, it's called. Okay, come on, where's Straw? Students and Teachers Restoring a Watershed. Now this is a free program. We've introduced it to the Board of Education for San Benito County, and they are we had a gathering of the superintendents that would bring connectivity to our schools within the park system. So I don't know about you guys, but when I went to high school, the only high school in San Benito County was in Hollister. And through that high school, we all knew the county. There was inevitably somebody from every part of the county in your class. And so now that connectivity is not here anymore. So what we're thinking is that we can help that kind of communication that goes through the entire county by connecting the schools. And if we have this riparian project brought to the schools that bring the students together at the regional park, the River Parkway that's attached to it, then we can create a little bit better understanding of all the different parts of San Benito County, which we have a difficulty doing. So anyway, that's kind of what REACH is about at this point, and I just wanted to communicate that and let you know that we are a resource for advocacy and information, if nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Someone else? Public
Cara
comment?
Vonk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'd like to bring to the City Council's attention some land use changes that are taking place at the county level that you may not be aware of. Apparently, the county's general plan was updated in 2015, and it's good through 2035. It has identified 4 Highway 101 interchanges for land use changes from agriculture to commercial, regional, or C3 zoning. And by the way, these are huge parcels, some larger than 150 acres. The zoning allows gas stations, fast food restaurants, hotels, recreation, 45-foot high signs, even higher if circumstances warrant. At last Tuesday's San Benito County Planning meeting, C3 zoning was adopted for the following 4 interchanges. Number 1, Beta Bell, with a postmodern theme. And in looking at the renderings, it appears to be more Art Deco, Florida theme, neon. I understand there's a 160-room hotel proposed. Alligators were mentioned, etc. It's big. The second one, Highway 129 and Searle. The theme is early farmstead. The third one is Rocks Road, and the theme is Old California Village. The fourth one at Cole Road, called Livestock 101. I presume that one's going to be ranch. Many people spoke and objected at the public meeting. Our beautiful rural cultural landscape will be spoiled forever. This landscape sets the stage for an authentic experience in our authentic National Register historic town. We don't need Disneyland theme parks, neon, huge billboards that spoil and junk up our most beautiful asset. And there were a number of people who were very concerned with water issues too. Something similar was floated for the Highway 129 interchange a number of years ago, and I'm quite certain, if my memory serves me well, that the City Council took an official opposed position at that time. I urge you to do the same. A group has formed to oppose the rezoning, and they're called Preserve Our Rural Communities, or PORC, P-O-R-C. I believe the plan is to appeal the Planning Commission decision, so there is still time for our voices to be heard. I urge you to take action. Councilmember DeVries apparently has a conflict because he represents the Beta Bell folks.
How do I have a conflict?
Pardon?
How do I have a conflict?
Because you're on the City Council?
That's county project. I have no conflict.
Okay.
Well, I'm not gonna let an allegation like I have a conflict.
Okay,
Without
I'm
response.
sorry, I withdraw that comment then.
Thank you.
There's a fundraiser on Sunday at 1 o'clock at the VFW, chicken barbecue and music. Hope you can attend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cara.
Next.
Rachel Ponce. I have two different things, so I hope I have enough time. While I recognize the need and support the effort for creating revenue, I think that we really have to take some steps in making sure that events that happen in San Juan are safe. I really think that having multiple events on the same day or weekend needs to be rethought. I don't think that it's a good combination. The crowds and the people trying to find a parking space in this little town creates a lot of inconvenience for residents, and it's not a safe thing all the way around. I realize that the Mission is its own entity, but the streets are public, and horses and cars going every which way on 2nd Street creates quite a problem. Just trying to cross from the Mission to the hotel was quite a dangerous thing to do when the horses and the cars are both on 2nd Street at the same time. I think those kind of things need to be taken care of. The other thing is the overcrowded and congestion and concentration of people on 3rd Street between Washington and Mariposa was very uncomfortable to walk through for that last weekend of the events of the rib cook-off. I think that the vendor, the promoter needs to spread out the booths a lot more, because it was very uncomfortable and very scary to have to walk the event through that small section. Dogs and people and not wanting to move because they would lose their place in the line for the ribs and all of that. It was very scary. But another thing I noticed, I think that in issuing business license, I think that it's the responsibility of the city and the business owner to be familiar with the city ordinances, and I really think that the city needs to do a better job of letting business owners know about ordinances. I noticed that there was tables and sandwich signs and merchandise on the streets, on the sidewalks, and it just keeps getting more and more. And I think that also needs to be addressed by the city. We have ordinances, we need to enforce them, and I hope that things will become safer when we have events. As a resident, I really want things to work out, and it's nice to have people come and visit, but if it's not a good situation, people won't come back either. And we don't want to have at risk the safety of citizens, visitors, in having these events. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jill Pagaron.
Hi, Mayor, Council. Last year, you signed a resolution as a multi-agency resolution to support Pinnacle's Gateway Partners. And we have been meeting, we just had our 4th meeting here in San Juan, and we have compiled this brochure that's for all the gateways. It's a connector from the east and west side of the park to all the gateway communities, and it has the highlights. It'll be given out at all the welcome centers and the concessionaires. So I want to pass these out to you, because this is what your support has brought so far.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask Jill a question?
Yes, yes.
Jill, Mrs. Ponce just brought up the topic of the festivals.
Thank you.
And you're still with the San Juan Business Association, or
Right.
what's the name of it, the official name now?
Community Business Association.
Community
Yeah.
Business Association, which we can think of as a Chamber of Commerce type thing, right, organization?
Well, we try.
So, here's my question. I was real interested in how our restaurants did during the Big Rib Cook-Off. And so I kind of took it upon myself to pull the obvious ones, Hardeen's, the new sushi place, Donya's. I would think it'd be really helpful if you, as the business organization, could do kind of the same, maybe more formally than me just asking anecdotally, how their sales were, what were the crowds like, and then ask them the question if there's anything in their mind that could be done or should be done differently with these festivals that could, if there is a negative impact on their business, could maybe make it a better experience.
I think we did discuss this a bit. And
Okay.
one of the things, because this Rib Festival fell on Cinco de Mayo, and we do have 2 authentic Mexican restaurants here in town, it kind of wasn't, it could have been a bigger Cinco de Mayo celebration within our community as opposed to a rib cook-off. However, I think that they benefit. I know Hardeen's was pretty crowded, and I think they had a wedding going too.
Well, I talked with Marcus about
Yeah.
that. Here's just an example. So Marcus said food sales were kind of so-so Friday, Saturday, maybe even below par for a normal weekend. But Marcus did something smart. He did a big, huge beer garden in the back patio and welcomed people to bring in their ribs. And they could sit at one of their tables and have a beer. So he made, what he may have lost in food sales, he more than made up in beer. So just things like that. Or maybe, for example, some of your members say that when the booths are all up, you can't even see, like Inaka Sushi, for example. So should we require the promoter or anyone having a festival to leave spaces in front of the restaurants? Or maybe require that the promoter allow the restaurants to put an A-frame in the middle of the 3rd Street where people are walking by saying sushi this way, or Don Yester's this way, or Dola's sandwiches, you know what I mean?
Right.
What are some real practical things? Because I don't want our merchants who are here day in and day out, toiling, to feel as if these festivals are kind of, bumping into them or causing any kind of adverse consequences. I think there should be ways to figure all that out.
Well, and I think that what Rachel had just addressed was the crowds trying to get through town. It actually discouraged a lot of people who would have stayed in town longer and maybe had ribs and then went into a restaurant, because that does happen. They do the samplers and such. I think because of the crowds, it kind of hinders that. But I know Donya's wasn't as busy as it usually is.
Okay.
But the dollar value, the percentages off, I don't know.
And I'm not suggesting we figure out anything tonight, just the suggestion that you might want,
Right,
want to interview your members or bring it up at your next chamber meeting, or get some feedback. And then if you bring that back to us, we can then take it around.
Sure, we can do that. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Next.
Cara Denny. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to speak. I'm here because of recent things that were posted on Facebook in regards to parking, and just want to try to encourage a dialogue being set up between business owners and the city as to how we can partner to come up with solutions to the parking issues, because it seems to be a thing that continues. And just kind of throwing it out there that there are several vacant lots in the town that are not being developed and have sat vacant for a very long time that possibly the city could purchase and turn into public parking, and hopefully get some business support for the maintenance of those on a yearly basis of some sort. So I'm going to keep this very short and brief, actually. So as to how that happens, I mean, you guys all know how to get a hold of me. I would love to, come up with some solutions instead of talking about it on Facebook. Thank you.
For your information, we have, this is an issue that we had been dealing with or trying to figure it out. We just got to get the support of the landowners, the property owners that own those pieces. That's who we have to make the deals with. But we have been looking at those for sure. We identified the places that we could actually make them into parking areas.
Great.
That's it. No more public comments? Okay,
I have one before we move on.
Yes.
This week, May 19th through May 25th is actually National Public Works Week. So I'd like to thank our public works people who I think help keep the town running and do a great job. That's it.
All right. There's a lot of work that goes on to keep this city going that most of us are not really aware of. But there is a lot of work, and our staff actually is worth their money and more. Anyway, we'll move on to our consent items. All matters listed under the consent agenda may be enacted by one motion authorizing actions indicated for those items so designated. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless requested by a member of the city council, a staff member, or a citizen. So we'll go down the line. 3A, approve of affidavit of posting agenda. Approve affidavit of posting public hearing notice. Adopt ordinance 2019-02, amending the San Juan Bautista Municipal Code, Chapter 5-17, to revise Section 5-27-110, subsection A, to prohibit smoking in every restaurant, including any area which is located outdoor, and to revise the outdoor workplace areas in restaurants, exempt from CEQA. D, approve resolution 2019 approving the report prepared in connection with the fiscal year 2019-2020 levy of assessments in connection with Valle Vista Landscape and Lighting Maintenance Assessment District Number 1. E, approve resolution 2019 declaring the city's intention to levy and collect assessments within the Valle Vista Landscape and Lighting Maintenance Assessment District Number 1 for fiscal year 2019-2020, setting the time and place for a hearing on said assessment. And F, waive reading of ordinances and resolutions in tonight's agenda beyond title. Okay?
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. Yes, it is, a lot.
Make a motion that we pass the consent agenda.
We have a
And I'll
motion.
second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. All approve the motion? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. And we go to item 4, presentations, informal items, and reports. 4A is a proclamation Water Awareness Month. Sean Novak, Water Resources.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here tonight. As you know, water is essential to everything we do. It's a very important natural resource. This year, I'm proud to say and happy to say that we have a good water supply. A lot of rain, a lot of snow. We even had snow just the last few days up in the Sierra, so we have an overabundance of water. But that doesn't mean that we still don't need to conserve. We don't know when the next drought is. Our county continues to grow in population. There's competing demands for that water. So water is critical, so we need to use it efficiently. So that's why we stop in May. This is normally the start of our irrigation season. People start ramping up their irrigation systems, and the water use starts going like a bell curve. It starts going up, and about August, September, it starts going back down again. So my agency, the Water Resources Association in San Benito County, we service San Juan Bautista. It's a free service, and I urge all citizens to call us at 637-4378. And that way we can come out, check your irrigation system, check to make sure your house doesn't have any leaks, and help you adjust that irrigation system so it's as efficient as it can be. So I'd like to continue by stating the proclamation here. Whereas California's arid and semi-arid climate, its ambitious and evolving economy, its continually growing population, and climate change have combined to make shortages and conflicting demands the norm. And whereas the health, welfare, and quality of life for our community depends on a reliable, high-quality water supply, and whereas the state, county, cities, and concerned citizens make strong efforts to foster wise decisions concerning water issues and water use, and whereas California has enacted legislation to promote sustainable groundwater management practices, whereas the fact that California will experience periodic droughts, whereas efficient use of water is critical not only during drought periods but at all times. And whereas during May 2019, the City of San Juan Bautista is inviting everyone to find out ways to save water both at work and at home. Now therefore, the city of San Juan Bautista does proclaim May 2019 as Water Awareness Month and urge all citizens, businesses, excuse me, industries, institutions, and public agencies to review their water use and water systems for water use efficiency and to contact the Water Resources Association of San Benito County for water saving ideas and assistance. Again, that number is 637-4378. Thank you.
I do have the copy, signed proclamation. I guess we give it to you, yeah? Yeah. Let me come around. Let me come around.
Easy, easy, easy.
Well, we-
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you very much.
Sean, sorry, one quick question. Do you still do workshops for irrigation and landscaping?
We do. I don't have any immediately planned, but stay tuned on our website, or I'll put ads in the newspaper and the Freelance and the Village Voice over here when we do. But,
Okay.
usually composting classes, efficient irrigation methods, and also water-wise gardens and things like that. So, and I have tons of information, even if we don't have a workshop. Just contact me, and we have all kinds of pamphlets and personal knowledge that we can help people with. So.
What's that number at the bottom of your screen that you can?
Yeah, it's 637-4378. All right.
Thanks,
All
Sean.
right. Thanks again.
All right, the Planning Commission has some presentations, and certificates of recognition for National Preservation Month. However, I don't think we have a representative here from the Planning Commission. Well, we present him. We'll be presenting a
Where'd David go?
certificate of recognition to Georgiana Goularty for her residence. Are you? Oh, we have. Do you have?
Oh my goodness. Good picture.
National Preservation Month recognition presented by the City of San Juan Bautista 2019. For all of you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
thank you so much for this presentation, especially in this whole audience. I can see a whole town full of volunteers here, which is what we all are, to make these things happen. So thank you. This little house, historically, has been the center of a whole lot of things happening in San Juan. And if you want to come and sit in our living room or in our garden, please do, because you can see some answers to all of those questions that the people who just spoke about what's happening in parking, what's happening across the street, what's happening going on. We'd be happy to have you come there. And also congratulations to the Public Works for quickly coming over with our city manager to take care of that pepper tree that fell down. Thank you.
Okay, this is a certificate of recognition, and I guess it's just the Planning Commission put it out, certificate of recognition. Whereas the month of May is National Preservation Month, and historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth and sustainable development, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas the City of San Juan Bautista supports Secretary of the Interior standard for the treatment of historic properties, intended to promote responsible preservation practices that help protect our nation's irreplaceable cultural resources. Whereas the function of the Planning Commission is to guide the orderly development of the city in accordance with general plan and other policy statements. And whereas the Planning Commission wishes to recognize a property owner whose rehabilitation of a residence reflects the city's goals to maintain its historical ambience by preserving and rehabilitating the structure at 1-2nd Street, the Gardella House. Consulting with Kent Sadie, historical architect and historic preservation consultant, submitting plans for design review approved by Historic Resources Board and Planning Commission, engaging local craftsmen, preserving the character defining features of a contributing structure within the city designated historic district, maintaining a welcoming and inviting appearance to one of the gateways of the nationally registered San Juan Bautista Plaza Historic District, extending the economic life of the structure, modeling responsible stewardship of the historic building. Now therefore be it resolved, in this meeting on May 7, 2019, the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista, on behalf of its residents, acted to recognize the efforts of Georgiana Goularte in redoing an existing structure, a stricter resource at 1 Second Street and energizing the local economy. And thanks her for being a responsible steward. Client Luis Matchain, Vice Chair, San Juan Bautista Planning Commission.
Oh, thank you.
And the next one is the 18th barrel. Anthony, Monica. Vénganse los dos. The 18th Federal Natural Preservation Month recognition presented by the City of Juan Bautista 2019. This is where the bakery used to be.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We really appreciate it, being a part of this community.
I gotta read this too.
Okay.
The same one we read, but that's all right. Whereas the month of May is Natural Preservation Month and Historic Preservation, an effective tool for managing growth and sustainable development, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas the City of San Juan Bautista supports the Secretary of Interior standard for the treatment of historic properties intended to promote responsible preservation practices that help protect our nation's irreplaceable cultural resources. And whereas the function of the Planning Commission is to guide the orderly development of the city in accordance with the general plan and other policy statements. And whereas the Planning Commission wishes to recognize a business whose rehabilitation of a public building reflects the city's goals to maintain its historical ambience by preserving and rehabilitating the structure at 322 3rd Street, 18th Barrel, Hasty. Submitted plans for design review, approved the Historic Resources Board and Planning Commission using a lively and attractive three-tone color palette to accentuate the building's architectural features and revitalize the historic downtown. Preserving the character-defining features of the concrete commercial building and replacing the awning which shelters the entire width of the facade. Maintaining a welcoming and inviting appearance for the highly visited and nationally registered San Juan Bautista Plaza Historic Site District, Mission San Juan Bautista, and the San Juan Bautista State Historic Park. Extending the economic life of the structure and enhancing the patio area. Modeling responsible stewardship of the historic building. Now therefore, be it resolved at this meeting on May 7, 2019, the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista, on behalf of its residents, acted to recognize the efforts of the owners of 18th Barrel Tasting Room in renewing an existing resource at 322 3rd Street and energizing the local economy, and thank them for being responsible stewards. Signed, Luis Matchain, Vice Chair, San Juan Bautista Planning Commission. We need more of you this time.
Yes.
Okay. Monthly financial statements. Do we have any?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, at your request, you receive monthly reports on the status of the budget and all the funds. That material is in your agenda along with the warrant list. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them later on this evening. We'll be talking about the overall budget.
Thank you. City manager's report.
Mayor, members of the council, members of the community, two things I wanted to report. First, with respect to public parking, in the current budget, that is the budget for this current fiscal year, this council allocated funds for a parking district feasibility study, and we've launched that effort. And we anticipate that we'd have a report for your review, maybe not at the next council meeting because it's probably 30 days away. But we will soon have a report on a variety of options. We'll show some sketches about how underused properties might be reused for public parking purposes and options about how we might share costs, both for the acquisition and the maintenance of those facilities. So it's something you asked us to do, and we're working on it, and that report will be back to you probably, as I say, not at the next council meeting, but maybe a subsequent one. July-ish. And secondly, important, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
No, I'm sorry, I was just flicking my pen.
Sorry. And secondly, an issue of importance to the entire community is the status of our water supply solution. And I'm pleased to report that we have now supplemented the small supply of well number 1 with a much more robust well number 6. And so we are now delivering water to the reservoir and to our customers from that additional source of water. The redundant well, new well number 5, is the one that had the iron manganese in it, requires treatment before it can be put online. The treatment vessels have been installed, and tomorrow my understanding is the media for that will be put into those vessels and staff will begin trained. So we are on track to bring that redundant water supply on as well, so that we can assure our community that we have an abundant supply of clean, clear water.
Thank you.
Awesome.
We're moving ahead. Building and plan report, E. Will we?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is, again, at your request, you've asked that we provide you this monthly status report. If you have any questions, Todd Kennedy from the planning staff is here to answer them for you.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Item number 1, Casa Rosa. I am sure that the community, along with all of us, really appreciate the job that was done on the shoring up that overhang and getting rid of the orange tape and all of that stuff. Well done. Thank you. Item number 2, the Fault Line Restaurant. Building and planning have approved the plans and the permit is ready to be issued. Do we have an issue day?
First off, Mr. Mayor, members of the council and staff, Todd Kennedy, city staff here. To answer your question, the permit has already been issued already. That was actually a week ago already. So they already have their permits, and as far as I know, I think construction has already begun.
Nice.
I think it was last Tuesday when I saw the applicant here picking up the permit.
Oh, thank you. Item 3. On the last column, comments, complaints, questions, it's anticipated to demolish at least one of the buildings on site. I'm sorry, this has to do with 10 Franklin, existing constructions, alterations, and demolitions. Property owner must move forward with zone change by their application if they wish to change the zone from public facility to mixed use. Further CEQA review is required as part of the process. Property owner will be in touch with city staff. We haven't had a response in this for a while. How long do we typically wait for a response, and at what point do we reach out to them to get this moving forward?
It's pretty much up to the property owner's discretion at that one. This is based on an email correspondence back to me. It was, I gave that information as it's stated here, and even how much it's anticipated to cost for a CEQA review located at 10 Franklin. And they said, okay, thank you very much. I acknowledge your response. We'll be in touch. And that was quite a while ago now. I think it's been a few months. Mm-hmm. So, excuse me. What we can do is we can reach out to the property owner to see if they'd like to move forward. That was the direction that we were given as staff as we talked amongst ourselves. That was the decision that was made.
So Mayor, members of the council, the issue of whether or not the zone should be changed is not relevant to whether or not they'll proceed with the building, because they have been deemed to have been a legal non-conforming use. So the change of the zone doesn't affect whether or not they're going to proceed. So that's why it's their option about whether they want to change the zone.
Okay, sorry, I'm asking these questions because the same language has come up month after month after month, and I'm just seeing what we can get rid of. Item 4, Harvey's lockup. Progress is being made on the agreement. The inspection took place and passed by the fire marshal. Do we have an idea of the end date? We haven't had progress since March. I think they only had a couple of items left.
That's right. The
alarm system?
The next item on their agreement is actually not scheduled until the end of this year. So,
Okay.
yeah, based on the agreement. So we still have some time. Time is on their side.
Okay,
So, anyway, and actually after last talking with them, they seem to be on track.
perfect. Thank you. Let's see. Copperleaf subdivision, number 6. We went from comments and complaint questions, none at this time, but in April, we had traffic and park development fees until approved agreement or final inspection on the project. Where are we on that, and who has the traffic and park development fees?
Let's see. I think that's a good question right there. Let's see. Ed, I'm not sure if, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Apologize, I'm not sure I'm familiar with the comment. Copperleaf is responsible, as all developers are, for paying impact fees upon well, in this instance, upon certificate of occupancy for the residential unit. They are due and have received, my understanding is, credit for their traffic impact fees for the 1/2 of San Juan Hollister Road that was constructed by their contractor, and we gave them credit for that. The park fees, they do not get credit, and as far as I know, they're paying them as they pull building permits.
Okay. Thank you. The next one is building department and code enforcement activity. This has been a none at this time continuously for the last 3 months. Yay for us. I don't know if I'm premature in saying well done to the community members for parking in the correct spaces, obtaining proper permits, and not using the ballpark as a dog park. Is that a fact, or do we just not have anybody doing code enforcement?
No, we have active code enforcement still, and as of right now, after cross-checking this, I mean, everything seems to be doing routine rounds. Everything seems to be fine, from what I'm told.
So yay to the community. We're parking where we're supposed to be.
Most of the time.
McCullamy. Again, this is the same iteration from last month. There was a notice of nuisance because of the condition of the old Charmler's house. What's going on with the notice of nuisance that was issued prior to the January 2019 meeting? At what point does the city take further action for a nuisance?
Right now, it's, as far as I know, the nuisance still stands, but however, no direction was given to do anything with the building, not until they have an application turned in. The information that I have here stated still stands. Staff did have a meeting with the property owner and the property owner next door, or actually, let me back up, potential buyer of the property next door, and we want to get them in contact with each other. As of today, we have not heard anything more.
Okay, thank you. The brewery, staff is working with property owner, met with property owner. Staff followed up with applicants and are creating the plans for and preparing for submittal as of 4/19. At what point do we declare this site a nuisance? Do we declare it a nuisance? This building has been in the same condition, maybe a little better as we progress through the years, for years. Okay, it did not say that here.
It was revoked. The site design review was revoked.
That was quite some time ago.
So this is an instance where the property owner, excuse me, proposed a project received a conditional use permit, and for lack of action, City Council formally withdrew the conditional use permit. That's been withdrawn. So nothing can happen there until a new conditional use permit. I'm not aware of circumstances that would suggest that it's a public nuisance, but if you could make those available to us, we can follow up. That it hasn't been developed is not nice, but that doesn't make it a public nuisance.
Okay.
Whose responsibility is it to clean it up? Because it looks horrible.
Well, we did, earlier there was a suggestion that we do need to continue code enforcement. So if there are property maintenance issues, the city can enforce the property maintenance requirements, but we can't make them we can't make them develop their building as long as it is safe.
Their weeds are out of control.
Well, the weeds of I hope we're going to hear about this later this evening,
It's on the
have been on the
agenda.
list for the properties that require reed abatement.
And that's one place that's, the parking is closed off. Potential site. Number 1, the infrastructure 1 traffic circle.
Let's see, let me go ahead, take a shot at that. Kind of relates to one of the projects upward on number 2 under new development. A minor subdivision project has been turned in from the property owner across the road from the Rancho Vista, and that is moving forward right now. We should be hearing that at Planning Commission next month.
And the last one, signage, is that with Planning Commission as well?
That one is kind of on hold at this time. There's been some discussion between the community and a sign contractor for wayfinding signs a while back, but there's no activity has taken place in a while.
Okay, my job
That
here is
it?
done. Thank you very much, Todd.
Thank you. Go to F, reports from city council appointees to regional organizations and committees. Do we have any reports from the committees?
Yes, we do. The intergovernmental committee that consists of representatives from the city of San Juan, Hollister, and the county is taking a field trip to Monterey Bay State University, whatever it is, down in Marina, to look at their library. As you may or may not know, the county is considering building a new library because we're talking about the library in Hollister, which is a county library. The city of Hollister does not really own a library like we do. So one of the things that we need to know is that our money also will be paying for that library, and it will also be our library. So we should have a say in it too. So I plan on having a say. We're going to go look at it because they have grand plans, and I think they're good because they want to make it a community center as well as a library with the first 2 floors being books and reading rooms, and the 3rd floor being classrooms or activity rooms or meeting rooms for the community. And Hollister really doesn't even have one, other than the city hall. So they use the Veterans Building as a meeting room for a lot of things, but that's not really owned by the city of Hollister. That's a private organization. So that will be occurring on Thursday. AMBAG is working on their OWL program, which stands for Overall Work Program, and it's about doing demographics for both housing allocations and for traffic flow. And then finally, Monterey Bay Community Power has been in business for 1 year. We have some really good news out of there. They've sent $4 million in rebates to all the customers in the Tri-County area. They are supporting $6 million in EV infrastructure funding for charging stations everywhere, once again, in the Tri-County area. San Juan, as a destination city, should think seriously about this. People like the Leal Hotel and the Posada should apply. Why turn down free money? You know, that's hard for me to. Anyway, they've also saved by using carbon-free electricity. The communities in the Tri-County area, including San Juan Bautista, has saved 300,000 tons of carbon emissions in the past year. So that's about it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
That organization, okay, my idea is to solarize our waste treatment plant.
Yes, yes.
So would that organization be the one to reach out to? Or?
Of course, they have some money for that. They have a lot of projects in the mix. Right now, they're concentrating on microgrids, which is keeps the electricity flowing when PG&E turns the power off. You may or may not know, but the city managers of the city of San Jose and the city administrative officer of the city of San Francisco had a meltdown yesterday in the state senate because PG&E told them that they were going to take the opportunity to turn off power for 4 days whenever they felt like it. The city manager of San Jose actually runs their power organization. Monterey Bay Power is different. We have a board of directors, which I sit on, that runs it. But in San Jose's case, San Jose is big enough by itself that the city council and the city manager run it. So for their own CCA, which is community choice aggregation. To get to your question specifically, we can contact them and see if they would like to solarize the wastewater treatment plant. That has been looked into in the past. Chris and I looked into it 2 years ago. It was tough getting enough property to make a difference. You know, we just, land issues out there are tough. But it's a really good idea, and if we have any imaginative thinkers that can figure out how to put them up, I'm all for it.
That's one of our biggest bills, you know, for the city, is electricity. So, something we're gonna do.
And you'll be surprised to know that actually the city of San Juan and Hollister are on PG&E's cheapest rates, which Monterey Bay Power matches. So we're on the cheapest rate. So our chance of getting cheaper power is between slim and none.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, Strategic Plan Committee report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you for your time. Mandisa Snowdy, Chair of the Strategic Planning Committee. I had intended to be in here within the first quarter, so I apologize for not being present for any of the previous reports, but wanted to give you an update on the work that we're doing. So last year, we passed a 2018-2019 work plan, 13-page document that you see before you that was adopted by the previous council. We have 9 items on this work plan. Each of them has a format where you can see which of the elements inside of the strategic plan of the general plan of the city, what are the expected deliverables of the project, who will be responsible for carrying out the project, what assistance is needed from city staff and other resources, the expected timeline of the projects, and then what actions we need the council to support the implementation of these projects. So out of this list of 9, we have 3 completed. We have completed the emergency operations plan update. Council adopted an ordinance, an emergency operations plan ordinance, and that ordinance will then allow you to adopt the plan that was written. So that's completed on our end, but still needs further action from council to complete. The farmers market program is ongoing, and we're going to recommend that continue over into the 2019-2020 work plan. The Parks Master Plan will be completed within, well, from us, it will be completed by our June meeting. So we will have a draft available, hopefully if it passes through our committee at your next meeting, we will have the draft of the Parks Master Plan. And then we also anticipate that plan go into the Planning Commission for review, which we will be prepared to support and be present to answer any of their questions. The Wellness Fair work plan was completed. There was the Carl Martin Luck Memorial Library that put on a health plan, so that was completed at the end of last summer. The farm-based tourism work plan is on hold at this moment because we do not currently have a chair of our Agriculture, Land Use, and Environment Subcommittee. So we are actively recruiting members. So if you have any recommendations, please feel free to send an email or a text or let city staff know. Todd has been really good in supporting us in making sure with all our communications. So if you have any recommendations who can help out with that work, it would be much appreciated. Our number 6, our pilot public art project was completed on March the 31st. We are still working out the wording for our public art policy to be adopted by the city. But the public art projects, if they're temporary, we've determined half of the pathway through. So for temporary art, we found a way for the city to be able to support and sponsor temporary art. We still don't have any public art policy, which would be permanent. If there's a mural, if we're having any of the utility boxes painted like that, we're working with the San Benito Arts Council and they're also reviewing Hollister's public art policy. And so the intention is that we kind of rework that into our 2019-2020 work plan to be focused on the permanent art policy. The MOU with the Aroma San Juan Unified School District is ongoing, will be pushed to the 2019-2020. Our social media outreach standards is still also ongoing. We've had a lot of lively discussion and are needing implementation, but something exciting is that the Youth Commission is really passionate about social media and supporting city staff and the different bodies in kind of livening up and getting some, younger eyes on the city's social media. And so they're working on having content available from their own social media as kind of like an example of what could be possible for a city government to be able to, represent themselves. So we're working together, Strategic Planning Committee and the Youth Commission on that. And so we anticipate also that will be ongoing to the next year. And the final one, the Cultural Walking Tour, is going to be ongoing into the 2019 and 2020 work plan. We've gotten some good movement and collaborations between the mission, between the state park, also between descendants of the mission, so the indigenous peoples of the area. And we're going to be putting together a committee between those institutions to get narratives of what that walking tour, like what kind of history would be told on that walking tour. And that also will have an aspect inside of the Parks Master Plan as part of our cultural planning. So that is kind of an overview of the work that we're doing, kind of gives you an idea on how we're doing our best to help digest the responsibilities in the strategic plan. So if there are any questions, I'm available for them now.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
I did have a question. We do have an action plan later on the agenda. It's, I think, at the last one about the mandala, 6F. I'm just wondering if it would be possible for council if we could pull that. Or I just have dinner time with my kids, and I want to be able to be present for that. To,
Take it out of order for now.
if we could,
Yeah,
that would be much appreciated.
I would move that we pull
Sure.
agenda item 6F out of order here now.
Go second?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you
All in
very
favor?
much.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move item F, 5F, no, 6, I'm
6F.
sorry, 6.
6F, action item.
That's an action item.
Yep.
Well,
I have, an email to send you.
can we move it? Or can we move it to the first? From the last item to the first on the action items? We have not entered into action items as of yet.
Okay, so I'll wait.
Yeah, just wait a little bit. Public hearing items. Property abatement, Fire Marshal Charlie Bedoya. Staff report.
Hi, Mr. Mayor and fellow council members. Thank you. I am Charlie Bedola with I'm the fire marshal for the fire department. Tonight's the night for the second part of our weed abatement process. So tonight's the night where we'll hear any contestants or appeals on the process or on the properties right there. So after that, now we'll be able to move forward with it, and we'll go out with the contractor and we'll identify the lots for sure that haven't gotten done. And it's an ongoing process where we've identified some more, and either check with them again to make sure, hey, you got it, you're gonna get it done. If you don't get it done by this date, which is gonna be coming up soon now, we understand, we're trying to be a little bit flexible because it is raining, and we don't want people to keep continuously mowing their lawn, so we're giving them a little bit of time for that, but there's a certain timeline that we do have to meet, because we do have to submit it, if we do it with the assessor, so we can recover costs through the process. Examples, liens on the property. So for the most part, there's been a lot of great communications with property owners. We've identified a few. They've come, requested that we do come out and talk to them about it. What exactly is it that we need to do? Where is it that you want to get? There are some properties that we've taken off because it's identified as wrong ones, but there's other ones we have identified. So it's an ongoing process. We put in a lot of time, and it's a good process. For the most part, everybody wants to be compliant. They just want to make sure they're doing it right. So we're here with that process right now, and then we should be starting up. So we will come back with a list, and the list will be properties that haven't complied, so we had to come in and abate it. A lot of times they'll say, hey, can you just have your contractor go ahead and take care of the weeds too, because that's even an option for them too. That's
So
it.
do you have a list of those properties?
We don't have a list, no, it's the original list that we still have. So now we're gonna go ahead, now since that month's up, now we go ahead and identify who's done it, who hasn't done it. And once we go out there, and if we have to do it, that's where we establish the list of properties that need to get, where we have to have our contractors do it, and then we recover costs. That's the list that we're gonna come up with at the next meeting.
Okay.
Today is just the appeal process date. If they want to appeal it, public comment.
Okay.
So it's still the original list.
So we're still working on this. You want a motion to hire a service to abate it, and have we identified those areas that need to be abated? Or?
We did, and they all got letters, so they were given the timeline, and then if they wanted to appeal the process, they could come up tonight to appeal it. Nobody's here to appeal it, so we'll continue on with that. Now we'll continue on and go through the lots. Okay, there's still some that we have identified, so if we can get some names, like for the McCollum, and, because we did send out some extra letters out there, and that we did send out some letters to the brewery property too, to abate those weeds also. So it could be up to us taking care of and cleaning it up too, so I'll get in touch with you and we can help identify, and hopefully we tag team this and get it done.
So, Mr. Mayor, it would be appropriate for you to call upon anyone in the audience to see whether there are any appeals.
I am, that's public,
Yeah.
public hearing, I want to open a public hearing for this. Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Public comments? We'll open a public hearing.
I have a question. I didn't submit a card.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just wondering how these properties are determined. Do they look at in people's backyards, or is it just what's visible from the public right away? Thank you.
Charlie, can you answer that?
I can. So we identify, usually it's open unimproved lots is where we identify. We don't usually go into, but if we can identify something that is a municipal violation, the nuisance, if we can see it from the street, then we can identify it and assist by sending a letter. So the fire department, we can say, hey, there is a nuisance, but there is a code enforcement, municipal ordinance where you can go from the back. So a lot of times people they can call our office and we can assist, and we have been, because throughout the county, and if someone says, hey, there's a lot of weeds, it's right up next to my house, call us, we'll identify the properties, and we'll mail out and send out a letter to say, hey, can you guys get this taken care of? And for the most part, people do comply once it gets identified.
Any other comments, public comments?
And that's any properties. If you see one out in the county, you see one in the city, send us the address, we can find out who it's at, and then send them a letter to assist us in abating the property, taking care of the nuisance.
Okay, if there are no other public comments, we'll close the public hearing here. With possible action,
Bless your bones.
Bless you.
what? Possible action, it's a motion to hire a service to abate the non-compliant properties and invoice the property owners for the work completed. So we move to that, do we hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we hire a service to abate the non-compliant properties and invoice the property owners
We
for
have
the
a
work
second?
completed.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor, respond by aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Hey, can you give one of those notices to the state of California for the orchard across from Daisy's?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Holy
They're taller
moly.
they're taller than you.
That's terrible. Terrible. And that's our historic district.
I know.
Okay, right now we move to action items, item 6, and we will move 6F
F.
To the top.
to the top. Okay.
Thank you very much.
right.
Appreciate you accommodating the time frame. You have an email in front of you from the River Silveggio, who is the guest artist for the public art project, the mandala that was in between, was that Washington and Mariposa on 2nd Street during the Arts and Crafts Festival. So along with some other community organizers and businesses are wanting to bring the mandala, expand the project out for the rest of the year. And so including 3 more mandalas, one in the summer, proposed on June 28th to happen on the block of the library, and have a theme, the story in the blossom, in collaboration with Credo Studio, the summer camp, which also has been supported by the city in the past. So it's kind of been a collaborative effort between city sponsorship, business ownership from Credo, and then sponsorship from the library to facilitate that, and having the public art project incorporated in that. An autumn mandala to happen celebrating harvest in September 22nd. And then a winter mandala, which would actually come with materials for a canvas, and it would be more of a, it's still temporary because it's movable, but permanent paint that can have kind of more fine detail, fine artistic detail, instead of more of the graphics when we're doing it on the street. And that mandala could then be utilized at other events by the city ongoing. So the very last page, there's pricing. And the complete ask is $5,700 as a budget item. And we're open for any questions, or there's quite a bit of detail and description in the beginning of the email to talking about, community art being a part of recreation, and also being kind of like community building activity, and which is also supported by the work of the strategic plan, supported by the strategic plan of the general plan. So we believe that there is support for being able to have these activities ongoing in town. And we felt like the first one, we got a lot of positive responses. And it was just also an overall beautification effort. To bring the community together. Yes.
How many people do you think helped you paint the first one in front of the hotel there? Including all the kids.
Yeah, it was, I guess, over 10 hours of painting, maybe. It was from 9 a.m. till about 6 p.m., and we had, I would say, between 60 to 100.
Yeah, people come and go.
Yeah, we had people come in and come out, a lot of visitors from out of town. Some business owners, even Jason Williams popped by to come and support. And we had people actually asking, when's the next one going to happen? Because we want to come back for this. We had multi-generations, a grandmother coming with her granddaughter, being able to paint together and kind of like brought strangers, people who might not have normally met each other, and also highlighted just the, the beauty and collaboration of coming together and making something in the community. And people were very impressed that it was, city supported, city sponsored, that this was like, oh, this is something that the city's doing. This is not just a renegade art project, So it was a really positive experience. And we believe that the impact on the, the street, as far as with the cleanup and everything, was pretty minimal, because we used the tempera paint. We got the rain, it pretty much washed it away. There's still a little bit, it's faded, but yeah, we would keep it in that same model. It would be a temporary art project.
Mandisa, what materials did you use when you did this one on Second Street?
We used materials from Ojai City.
Okay,
So that was part, so we
then
used all their
you don't have
paintbrushes.
you don't have your own paintbrushes or paint or anything?
I do not, the artist does. But we're guests, she is guest sponsoring us as a city, and she's wanting really to kind of mentor the community organizers of the strategic plan, but really anybody who's interested in being able to start doing mandalas consistently. So she's wanting to here's the materials you need, these are the ways that you can do the different mandalas, here's the design process, and really sharing her protocol with us, which is part of where.
So who would have who would store these materials? Where would you get them?
Well, I believe part of this, part of in the budget would be getting materials for our city to actually have a full set of paints and paintbrushes, some material for canvas and doing, it's temporary, but it's permanent paint because it's not gonna be on the street or something like that. And basically it would be city resources for, city art. I guess it could be stored with Public Works, or do you have an answer for that?
So I just want to, Hi there. My name is Ramona Hill, resident, and I'm the owner of Credo Studio, so we help sponsor this event. For the initial mandala, the city purchased the paints. The artist provided brushes. There is paint remaining. So I have 12 5-gallon buckets. Some of them are as much as halfway full. At the moment, they're stored in my studio, but I don't have storage. So it would be nice to have a better solution for that. So the answer is that the paint belongs to the city. There is still some left. This would be typical that when paint is purchased for a mandala, it isn't necessarily all used. So there will be a need for storage.
And ideally is that we will be all set up, by the end of this process, we'll be all set up with all the materials needed to continue to do mandalas on our own without needing to host in a consultant to support us. She's really wanting to teach us everything that she's learned over the 25 years in Ojai and kind of pass it off so that San Juan Bautista can, benefit from this as part of our community culture.
Any other discussion?
Question. So these monies, they go to the artist or for purchasing? Are we paying for her time or
her
product?
time consultation, and then also there's some for, so if we are in the, it breaks it down basically, fee for design, strategy support, travel, purchasing, sketching the mandala. That's discussing the winter mandala. It talks about, basically the design process for her time. There's aspects of where there's materials. So we do have paint, we have leftover paint. We're probably going to need to make another paint order. We want to have a full set of brushes, a couple hundred brushes, I believe so, so that we won't need to borrow from out of town. And also for site use, for studio and approximately 30 to 40 hours of consulting time is what that looks like.
It looks like, is she coming for the summer and then also for the winter?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So she,
And the
how
fall.
often is she going to be coming to train you or?
Each mandala gets a committee process of 6 weeks, and that's a weekly meeting for design committee, which we want to, we kind of had a core design committee of artists from the strategic plan, but we want to open that up. And so she pretty much chairs that design process, 6 weeks for each mandala, so that's some time there. And then she comes out for the mandala. We typically mix the paints the day before, and then we're doing like a 9 to 5 type of thing, like an 8-hour day, kind of starting earlier in the day. But the one that's really going to take the most time, effort, energy, and planning is the winter mandala, because it's more going to be like a permanent symbol that we can use. Ways that we could maybe fixate or hang it to a building without having to make it a permanent mural. Kind of like a movable mural is the idea for that.
And so this $1,200, is this for her lodging, including her time? Including the time that she spends here?
Says travel.
So it does say traveling from Ohio, 2 days on site for organization, leading, and painting. So I believe then that would be her travel and being here for 2 days per mandala. So that would be 2, 4, 6 days plus travel.
And the committee chair work.
And then the 6 weeks of design committee per mandala.
So on the winter mandala, it says $600 for 3 weeks at Credo Studio. So that would be basically the storage of the mandala itself will be, or the painting will be done at Credo.
And materials, because we have 20-pound canvas, which we're gonna have like a diameter maybe 20 to 30 feet mandala on canvas. So we're
Okay, so that canvas will be smaller, more like a 10 to 15 diameter, but it will be housed at the studio, and there will be public access to work on it. It takes longer. It's all these ones on the street are chalked on in the morning, painted, they're done that day. But this one will be oil on canvas, and there will be public access for those 3 weeks.
And how big is it going to be?
The December?
The December one, yeah.
10 or 15 foot diameter on canvas. So that's a permanent work, and for public use.
But it's still temporary art,
Right.
because it's movable. So it's we have to be specific, because anytime we say permanent, then we have to have the policy and the ordinance to support that, which our city doesn't have yet. But we're still, the idea with the work plans was find the pathway for public art through the city. So these are like the temporary art projects that can happen, and we're wanting to develop them into more of a permanent art. How can we, ideally, if we're getting a design committee together, then we're bringing together artists and resources that we can then expand on if we want to, say, start painting our utility boxes, or if there's a spot for a mural, things like that. We're wanting to lean more heavily on the artists and the resources here, so that we don't have to keep hosting in from someone out of town, because it can be costly.
But I also do want to emphasize that this is a mentorship, so her intention, this is an investment. This is for her to train us, to lead and train us to do this, as Mindy has pointed out. So I wanted to bring that point up, that these monies are investing in the future of this type of project.
Discussions, any discussion? Now we'll ask for public comment. Thank you. Do you have any public comment? We're open for public comment. No public comment? We close public comment. Possible action, yes.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is an example of a request for support from community organizations, which I addressed in the budget by suggesting that you may wish to consider in the budget workshops the request from this organization and others, determine the total amount of money you'd like to allocate for support for community organizations, and then make decisions about priorities. So it would be perfectly appropriate to accept this request and to consider it as part of your budget workshops.
Okay. So we will approve a motion to accept the project and put it on our workshop, or budget workshop, is that?
I think that would be an appropriate motion, but that ought to come from the council.
Right.
You can't make the motion?
No, I'm just asking if that's a motion.
I'll make that motion. So,
So we're not approving an allocation of money at this time with this motion.
right.
Yeah.
We're just,
Just clarifying that for
yeah,
everybody.
exactly.
Yeah.
What we're going to do is put it as part of the workshop that we want to have for the budget. We got a budget, proposed budget,
Right.
and we're gonna do some workshops. We want the community to come in and get involved, and so we can get a good deal going here.
And this issue is discussed on pages 43 and 44 of the budget, for those who want to take a look at it.
I read that.
Say that,
Okay?
Yeah,
3 and 44.
So we have a motion.
thank you.
Anything else you need?
I made the motion that we put this on our budget for when we meet.
Budget workshops?
Budget
Budget
workshop.
workshops.
Okay, second? Do we have a second?
Do you have a second?
Dan,
Okay, with John?
Dan.
Dan?
Dan? Oh, I'm sorry, Dan. Any other discussion, please? So we call for the question. All in favor, respond by aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're good.
We haven't.
It's on the item. We're gonna have it done, we're gonna do it, what's it, July?
June.
18th?
June
Or June, I'm sorry,
18th.
June
June
18th.
18th.
Yeah, but we're gonna have workshops prior to that, so that everybody can come in. We'll set them up either here or at the library, I'm not sure.
And I know it's a little bit out of order, point of clarification, because we have a 6-week design process and we're trying to get our first one in for June the 28th, which is the last week of June, we can definitely make it to the budget workshop. But we were just.
We're gonna start the committee work.
Okay.
There's no other way to.
We're gonna start the committee work and on, on good faith that we can have the support going forward. So thank you for actually.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Could you please supply me with copies of the report you handed out earlier and the email?
Yes,
And copies of those for the file?
I will email them to you.
Okay.
Or do you want hard copies?
Hard copy.
I'll print them before I leave, yeah.
Right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Now we move back to A. 6A, approve agreement with CSG for city engineering professional service. We have a staff report from our interim city manager.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, as you suggested, this is a recommendation to authorize a contract with a new city engineer consulting firm. About 18 months ago, when we lost the services of a city employee who served as the city engineer, we entered into a contract after a competitive process, and that was with Harris Engineering. Harris has indicated as I previously advised you, they've indicated that they can't provide the single employee at the staff level that we need. So they've suggested that they'd like to end the contract on June 30th. We sent out new proposals. We received 2. We're recommending the firm of CSG Consultants. They do the similar work that Harris did. They have other municipal clients. Important, I think, is that they do have an individual who they will assign to us. Her name is Julie Bezod. Unfortunately, she currently works for the city of Gilroy. Her assignment is winding down. She's unable to join us tonight. But the principal of the firm, Nordine Kayat, is here. Nordine, would you stand up? If you have any questions about him or his firm, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer them. So our recommendation is that we enter into a contract. It will be paid for in a couple of ways. One, by fees for people who apply for engineering type review. And secondly, for the management of capital projects, where those costs will be assigned to the capital project itself. This previews a little bit of the budget discussion, but we have an ambitious capital improvement program, and I'm also recommending we hire a part-time staff person to help us manage those projects. So we anticipate, frankly, that what we spend on city engineering will be less in the future than it has been in the past, but we still do need the resources and expertise and certifications of the professional engineering firm. And so on that basis, we're recommending CSG to you tonight.
I work with Nordine over at the City Marina, and he's great.
Yay.
Any
I
other
have
discussion?
questions
Do you have
also.
any discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to state also that I've worked with CSG for years. You're a vendor to the county still?
Yes.
Joe Strasser and Rajesh does plan check?
Yes.
And Joe did the building inspections, right? CSG was awesome, very responsive. They had a couple, Joe Strasser, for example, was embedded at the county, but he was a CSG guy, and yeah, it's always been really pleased and happy with CSG. I think they do a great job here.
Any other discussion?
I do. Question, we're still keeping Harris on for inspections? Is that QSP stuff for ongoing projects?
Yes, so as the report indicates, thank you for asking. Harris has agreed, and we asked them to continue on with the construction inspection of the public improvements being installed by the 2 new subdivisions. It's important that having approved the public improvement plans, that they be constructed in accordance with those plans, and that before we accept them as public improvements, they have been properly installed and inspected. And so rather than have a transition period to a new construction inspector, we're going to stay with the existing construction inspector.
Continuity.
Has the relationships with the superintendents on site, knows the projects, knows the plans.
Okay. And your folks are QSP, QSDs, QS whatevers? I mean, for future projects, we don't need to keep Harris and Associates for that. We can move everything over to you folks.
Indeed, we do have some personnel that are QSP and QSD certified.
Okay.
And we have inspectors as well for all future projects.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? We'll open it to public comment. Do we have any public comment? No public comment. We close the public comment. Possible action. Motion to accept resolution 2019 amending the city and, sorry, to approve professional service agreement with CSG for engineering services. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve professional service agreement with CSG for engineering services.
Do we have a second?
And I'll second.
Any discussion? Call for the question. All in favor, respond by aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Welcome. Welcome to our fair little town.
Yeah.
I know you'll take care of it, right?
Indeed, thank you very much for the opportunity, and we look forward to working with the city of San Juan Bautista and provide the services that we provide. We, based our business on reputation, so our reputation is very important to us. We want to make sure that you're happy with our services and that we meet the demand. These days, as you guys know, I mean, the development work, the construction, the paving, the SB1, things are happening a lot all over California. So we'll do our best to meet your demands and have the resources needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. 6B, approve resolution amending the city employee salary and benefiting plan. Staff report, city manager, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I would consider this perhaps a housekeeping item. We believe it's appropriate that the city council formally approve from time to time changes, if necessary, in the city's salary and compensation plan. In this resolution, we're asking you to approve the salary ranges for employees and the 5 steps that an employee may go through as they move through the range. I brought this to your attention because last year at the budget time, in the budget, the City Council approved a small increase in compensation by allowing up to 3% of an employee's salary to be contributed on behalf of the city to the employee's deferred compensation plan. A good idea. It was done in the budget, not specifically in a salary resolution. And in this resolution, we're asking you to confirm that. And going forward, if there are any changes in the compensation plan, it should be done through the salary resolution process.
Okay. Discussion. A discussion. We'll open it for public comment. Do we have any comments from the public? If not, we'll close the public comment. Possible action. Motion to accept the resolution amending the city employee salary and benefits plan. The chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept resolution, are we on 18?
21.
21,
Okay.
amending the city employees' salary and benefits plan.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, we call for the question. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Would that include the 200% raise for commissioner salaries?
That was in the
We have the budget workshops coming up.
200% of zero is still zero. 200% of volunteer.
Okay, item 6C, approve resolution establishing a regional traffic impact mitigation fee.
Mayor and Council, this is the formal action we brought to your attention at the last council meeting. Recall that as a condition of receiving the local funds under Measure G, COG is requiring that each of the agencies, the 2 cities in the county, adopt the regional traffic impact mitigation fee. You indicated that you'd wanted to receive the Measure G money, and so we brought you this formal action tonight. It turns out that there will be a meeting tomorrow of the 3 agencies, along with the COG director, to talk about administration of these fees, to make sure that we're not just setting the right rates, but that we are administering them in a uniform manner. I bring this one to your attention with a reminder that it is critical that we follow through, and there's money in the budget to accomplish this, with the local traffic impact fee. It needs to be established based on the general plan and establish a nexus between the projects that are required to mitigate growth and the projects that are causing those impacts. So this action tonight is just for the regional traffic impact mitigation fee in accordance with the resolution and the schedule. The study that was adopted in 2016 has been updated by the construction cost index as the study suggested it should.
Discussion? Any discussion?
I guess I just have a concern that, I mean, we have so many people when we have, I know that they're going to widen 156 to Union Road.
635 feet east of San Juan Bautista.
And what my concern is that a lot of the Measure G money will be used to widen that. And I'm wondering what's going to happen to the valley, because there's so many potholes in the valley, and if the city will end up getting any of that Measure G money. It just seems to me that it's probably going to all go mainly to the
Yeah,
east
according to this
area.
report, there's nothing that is going into the city itself. The closest thing we get is that 635 feet east of the Alameda.
Right. And that's my concern, is that how do we get or request that we get more of that money?
As I remember, COG divided up the money already. 47.5% goes to the county, 47.5% goes to the city of Hollister, and 5% goes to the city of San Juan Bautista. I do have some problems with that because San Juan Bautista, while our population is probably a little less than 5% of the 60,000 in the county, we provide 9% of the sales tax receipts to the county, and in my opinion, we should get 9% of that money back. That's just my opinion, you know. We were kind of, in my opinion, kind of rolled by the mayor of Hollister for that 4%.
So Mayor and members of the council, the proposed budget does program $154,000 next year, which is our local share of Measure G. But I think you're raising another question, which is about how the regional funds are going to be allocated in a way that could benefit San Juan Bautista. And at the risk of reading from my own words, on page 86 of the budget, we say, with the adoption of the regional impact fee, it is important that San Juan Bautista advocate for improvements to regional facilities such as Highway 156 that would directly benefit the community that is paying the fees.
Okay,
So
yeah.
it's not enough to just start collecting the fee and saying, well, the plan is the plan. We need to take an active role in developing the plan.
So do we write a letter to COG? How do we do this?
Well, as you know, the city has a representative to COG
Who
Yeah,
sits
the
at the
chair
head,
of the
the head of the
organization.
table, I believe.
Okay, so Chair,
I'm the chair.
But each elected official and the staff itself, in every forum at every time, ought to be advocating for projects that benefit San Juan.
Since we're discussing the COG, right now we're in the process of putting together an oversight committee, and we're short a representative from the trades. So if you know anybody in the trades that may be interested, we're putting
from
that
San Juan
together.
Bautista.
No, it does not have to be from San, it can be
No,
from
but it would
anywhere.
be nice because that way they would,
Just have one
No,
more San Juan Bautista.
we already have someone from San Juan Bautista that expressed desire to be on that committee, and
right.
I'm okay with that. It
No,
just-
but I'm thinking it would be nice to have another person from our area because everybody else is from
There's
the
a couple of
Hollister
people that had submitted their name, okay? From District 2, which is Anthony's district, supervisorial district. So we have 2 people that have applied. But what we're trying to have the oversight committee represent all the different areas, and where we need one is in the trades. And it doesn't matter where they come from, but they represent the trades. So,
And as I understand it from Mary, talking to Mary Stewart, or not Stewart.
Gilbert.
Hey, Gilbert, thank you. The trade they prefer would be road construction type people. They want someone with the ability to figure out how to lay a road, how to
Right.
pave a road.
We've got Jim, gosh, what's Jim's last name? I'm blanking. He's the president of Calback Paving Construction. He lives right outside of town.
He would be good. He would be
can you
good.
talk to them,
Yeah,
please? Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, and the regional traffic impact mitigation fee needs to be paid so we can get some of that money, I believe. Correct?
Yes, sir.
That's to get the 154,000.
Right.
And it's good in and of itself, as long as we continue to advocate for regional projects that benefit San Juan.
Right. Okay, we'll open it to public comment. Go ahead.
Jim Adam, that's like
Jim Adam?
Caravank. Regarding the regional traffic impact, and you mentioned Highway 156, the current road is supposed to become a frontage road. And I've been involved in the whole EIR process, many years. And they have these conceptual drawings, tree-lined, all very beautiful, bicycle trails, walking trails on this frontage road. So that might be where this regional traffic, pardon?
Who has that? Caltrans doesn't have that. You talking about the one that we did for Save San Juan Valley? With the
No,
trees and the
I'm
bike
talking
lane?
about the Highway 156 project, the
So am I,
Caltrans.
But when you mentioned those designs, where did you see those?
I don't know, how many years ago was it that we commented on the EIR?
Yeah, that was from Save San Juan Valley, those designs.
Well, in any event, we had the COG representative here. Was that before the Planning
That was Planning
Commission? Okay. And apparently that frontage road is part of the Caltrans project. So I just want to advocate that these impact fees be used, or could be used, to develop that frontage road, because that's going to impact us directly. It'd be wonderful to be able to ride your bike to Hollister, for example, and have it be tree-lined and whatnot, have it look beautiful. So just a comment, suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comment? If not, we close the public comment. Possible action? The chair will entertain a motion to approve resolution 2019-23? 22 or 23? 22? Adopting the 2016 Transportation Impact Mitigation Fee Nexus Study, adopting modifications to the fees as recommended by the study, and find adoption of the fees categorically exempt under CEQA. The chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Second. Any discussion? No discussion, we call for the question. All in favor, respond by aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. D, request funding for from COG for a pavement management program, sorry. Interim city manager?
Again, members of the council, this is another COG item, and we often speak in acronyms. COG is the San Benito Council of Governments, which is our regional planning agency. Under Measure G, the ordinance that was enacted by the citizens of San Benito County, COG has the discretion, in addition to we talked about the percentages that are allocated by ordinance to the locals. They have the discretion to fund what are called pavement management programs. We talked a little bit about this at the last meeting. And since they have that discretion, I think we ought to take advantage of it. And we're recommending that we formally request the COG board to allocate sufficient funds, about $32,000 of the proposal that I have, for a pavement management program. Again, this is the second requirement they have for receiving our allocated share of Measure G money. But with this request, we're asking them to pay for it on top of that and not take it out of our allocation.
Cool.
That's
That's the way to
very
go. Any public comment? There's no public comment, we close the public comment. Possible action, motion to direct staff to formally request the San Benito Council of Governments to provide funding in the amount of $31,000 to pay the initial cost of establishing a pavement management program, or PMP.
Yes. So I move that we go forward with this.
I second it.
We have a second. Any discussion?
Can we ask for more money?
Well, I'll look at it. If no more discussion, we'll call for the question. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. E, fiscal year 2019-2020 budget. We accept the city manager's recommended budget. We set a schedule for the budget workshops, and then we set a hearing for June 18th to adopt the budget. Would you like to comment on that?
Mr. Mayor and Council, with your indulgence, we have a short PowerPoint presentation to introduce you to the budget recommendations. And we're warming up. We need to plug in. Here we go.
We're going to get an upgrade on this AV system.
It's in the budget.
Well,
It's in the budget.
So some of the top line highlights of the budget. First, it's important for the community and the council to be aware the city's financial condition is in good shape, it's stable, it's solid, and improving. In a specific example, the general fund, the fund from which you have the most discretion to spend on community priorities, we are proposing a budget of about $1.7 million, which will still leave you at the end of the fiscal year with a fund balance of about $3 million, significantly more than we're proposing to spend. So a major policy consideration for the council in the future is at what level of reserves is appropriate, what's the best way to use reserves, to expand services, to invest in return on investment projects, or the like. So we wanted to assure you that the fiscal discipline that you and the staff have exercised over the past few years is providing dividends. This proposed budget does, however, suggest some modest increases in service levels. For example, we're going to propose to increase, we do propose to increase some staffing at the library in order to expand hours of operation, especially on Saturdays. We propose some additional support for the public works staff on a part-time basis and materials to do some minor additional repairs, including pothole repairs and the like. And we do propose additional, as I mentioned earlier, part-time staff person within the city manager's office at a level sufficient to be able to manage some of these ambitious capital programs that that I've discussed. It is ambitious. There's a lot to do. The budget identifies the funding sources for those, but they are still woefully short of the needs of the community. For example, one of the projects you approved previously was the complete reconstruction of 3rd Street from a short stretch between Tuolumne and McKellamine. That is a very expensive project if it is to be a complete reconstruction. Taking the road surface down to its base, new storm drains, new water lines, sewer lines, curb and gutter. Very expensive project, and we're only going to be able to handle a couple of blocks. So one of the issues with Measure G is San Juan is small and receives a small amount of money, but it costs us just as much to fix a block as it does Hollister. And so we need to accumulate funds over a period of years before we can really do a meaningful project. One of the things we're going to be talking about with the staffs I mentioned with the city and the county tomorrow is ways in which we can trade back and forth. Maybe we can get an advance against funds that Hollister isn't quite ready to use, so we can put together meaningful projects. But that's an issue you want to pay attention to in the future. The budget talks about several important strategic planning efforts that we believe, the staff believes, are critical. For example, the water and wastewater master plans. We often are contacted by property owners who talk about their ideas about how they'd like to develop, and they ask a very simple question. Can you service? I don't know. We need to have better engineering data and thoughtfulness about the capacity of our systems and what improvements are needed and who's going to pay for them. And that can come with the master plans, and these are funded from the utilities and the impact funds. Water and sewer rate study every 5 years. It has been your practice to go through the so-called Proposition 218 rate study process. Little side comment about the budget. There's a meta comment in here that says you're going to find some mistakes. One of the mistakes is it says that you have to do that by January. In reality, you don't have to do that until July. But the study will be conducted during the next fiscal year. I mentioned earlier the absolute criticality of updating the development impact fees, especially the local traffic impact fee. We need to get that in place, and we need to get it done quickly, and it needs to be solid so that we can collect both the regional and the local traffic impact fees. Park Master Plan implementation. You heard an earlier report from the citizen-led Parks and Recreation Master Plan process. If that master plan is adequate and is adopted, we are eligible for $200,000 from the state of California under the recent Bond Act that we propose to use to begin implementing that plan. We haven't specified what the particular project is because we haven't seen the master plan, but we've got funds ready to go to start on the implementation.
Do we have other money in that fund for parks from Rancho Vista and Copperleaf?
Yes, so there is the other source for capital projects for parks is the so-called Park Impact Fund. Both Copperleaf and Rancho Vista have paid into it. One of the projects we propose is to help pay for the Veruti Park restrooms, which I know is of concern to some of you.
Oh, thank
But
goodness.
yes. Anyway, so there are, so within the budget document, there is a description of the fund, each of the funds and the fund balances that are available, and these are the kinds of questions you might want to raise and dig into in the course of your budget workshops.
And where is the master plan for Parks and Recreation? Where is it?
According to the chair of your strategic planning committee, they anticipated that their committee would finish their work in June,
And then we'll get
they
it
would
right
submit
after that?
And then submit it to the plan. They want you appropriate to have it reviewed by the planning commission, but probably the city council ought to see it first. And then lastly, in this quick summary, there's lots of things in the budget here, but the housing element updates. As you well know, the state of California dinged us for not keeping up to date with the housing element. That has been, the first round has been drafted and is being reviewed by the state right now. We anticipate any week now we'll hear from them, and then we'll get right on the second round of the housing element. But within the housing element, there are going to be a series of programs that are going to require us to review the zoning regulations to see whether they facilitate or hinder the development of affordable housing. That's going to cost some money. we propose in the budget to take advantage of another state grant that's ours, that is due us under SB2, which would provide up to $100,000 of planning assistance to help us take on the project of implementing the housing element. And then, not listed here, but we also propose, I've talked to some of you, you know, there are about 7 different programs under the Community Development Block Grant Program that the city is eligible for. One of them was not the youth center, but the other 6 we are. One of those is a planning grant, and we propose to apply for a planning grant so as to develop actual housing assistance programs. Do we want to have housing rehabilitation loans? Do we want to have facade rebates? How do we want to go about preserving affordable housing and expanding the supply? So those kinds of things are discussed in the budget. Financial management issues. These are maybe small potatoes, but they're going to require a lot of attention by the city staff, including the new city manager. We've talked with the Investment Advisory Committee and the city treasurer. It's important that we bid out the city's commercial banking account. It's been decades, and we pay a lot in fees that if we had competitive proposals, we wouldn't have to.
Yeah, we talked about that last meeting a little.
Yeah.
One of the challenges is preparing the budget and managing the budget is the so-called chart of accounts. You will, there's about a 10-page list of accounts, and over the years, they have grown like topsy. So every time there's a special object of expense, somebody's created a new object code. And that makes it very difficult to track trends and to, frankly, manage the budget because everything is so specific. We have supplies for the water department, supplies for the parks departments, and could be just supplies. So this would be a task for the for the city accountant and the city manager. Doesn't require any expenditure of funds except their time. We do think it's important to establish better procedures and controls for developer payments and reimbursements. This is discussed in a couple of places in the budget, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. It's also important to monitor the sales tax and the business license gross receipts. In the past, the city had used, as many cities do, a consultant that you hire who downloads the data from the state and analyzes it and puts it in a fancy report. You don't have to do that. The state will give you the data, but we have to have somebody sit down and review it. And we have to match up. It's important that we match up what a business is reporting to the state in terms of sales tax and what they're reporting to us in business license. They generally match, but we want to make sure that they do. And we can see trends by looking at individual categories of sales tax generators, restaurants, for example. We can get a better sense of how to forecast going into the future. One of the themes of the budget that we presented is that we're using special revenue sources wherever legal and justifiable in order to preserve the general fund. One of the things as you go through the budget detail here, you will see big spikes in one department or another, and that's because this principle was not necessarily followed. Special revenue funds were placed in the general fund. We thought we'd get a grant, we put it in the general fund. We think it's appropriate to keep those separate and apart. That makes the budget complex, I will acknowledge. But city government is complex, and we have a legal requirement to only spend special revenues on the special purposes for which they were established. But we're also allowed, in many instances, to use those special revenues to help pay for general administration. So instead of budgeting the city manager's time in the Valle Vista Landscape District, which has happened in the past, we're simply taking the allowed general administration support as a transfer from that fund to the general fund. So the general principle here is protect the homeland. We are protecting the general fund and whenever possible using the special revenues that are lawful. In the terms of the general fund, the property tax revenue is you'll see that we're suggesting that this fiscal year is going to be significantly greater than the prior year. There's some new development, obviously. The CPI has changed. Some change in ownership. That also increases property tax. But I am urging you to be cautious because we don't know a lot about our property tax base, in part because there are different allocations of property tax depending on when the property was annexed. They're subject to different property tax sharing agreements. And it's difficult to sort that all out, and as we learn more about it, you'll become more confident in the property tax estimates. So I'm urging you to be cautious and not start spending it like crazy. The sales tax is doing very well. Restaurants are successful. There's an increase in daytime visitors and potential for more in the future. And the transient occupancy tax has been relatively stable. Not significantly increasing, relatively stable. Where are we spending our money? We have contracts with the sheriff, level 1 private security, and the fire department that constitute a big portion of our general fund budget. And they're in the budget at those contract levels. In the library, we did provide additional staff hours, public works, additional part-time work. The personnel allocations affect the individual department budgets. So as you go through and look page by page and see why is it that the city manager's budget or the city clerk's budget is bigger this year than last year, a lot of that is a function of how the then city manager or the current city manager allocated their time, proposed to allocate their time. There's a schedule at the back of the book that shows you what those allocations are. I wanted you to be mindful of that as you look at it and say, why is the salary for this particular budget unit higher than in the previous year? It may be due just to how we allocated the time. The Community Development Fund is a fund that requires long-term council policy direction. This is a special revenue fund where we capture all the revenue from land development. When somebody pays a planning fee or a building permit fee or an inspection fee, we capture that in the Community Development Fund. And as you learned earlier, we shifted to the contract services model for those activities. So those are expensive on an hourly basis, and we need to make sure that our revenues are keeping up. The fees were adjusted about a year and a half ago or so, but I'm not sure we're keeping up. Some complicated projects have required general fund support. Now, they're not the only things that require general fund support. Think of, for example, tonight there was discussion about code enforcement. Our objective in code enforcement is compliance, not fines. So who pays for the cost of code enforcement? That's a legitimate general fund expense. So the general fund will be supporting the so-called community development fund. But there are also instances in which some of the most complicated projects the city has seen in the past decade, these major subdivisions, have required continuing effort as conditions of approval are questioned, interpreted, alternatives considered, and that requires both staff time and consultant time, and those costs have not always been fully recovered, and that's something I'm recommending that the council and the administration consider moving forward. I've even gotten some proposals that I think we can finance in the current budget to have a small little management audit of the community development functions and get some recommendations on the appropriate model and processes and financing. The ambitious projects include the McKelvey Street resurfacing from the highway to, what is that street?
Fourth?
Fourth, yeah,
Fourth.
yeah, right. And I mentioned the complete reconstruction of Third, the pavement management program. I'm hopeful that the COG board will agree with, they ought to pay for that.
Question on that Third Street, is that gonna go into the new house, into the new development?
No, this particular project is from Tuolumne to McKelvey.
Okay.
The portion of probably the worst road segment in town, unless you want to nominate Old San Juan Hollister Road. But in terms of a road that on which people live and a lot of traffic.
From the library to the red barn
Building.
thing.
Keeps the speed down.
That was the late Mayor Jim Wist's point. You fix the streets, there'll only speed on them.
It's like the cobblestones of Europe. Just close your eyes.
Park improvements, the Veruti Park restroom. And, that should be an and the initial phase of a new park, because we're proposing to use the $200,000 for the initial phase of whatever new park comes out of the Park and Recreation Master Plan.
Woohoo, there's your audio-visual upgrades.
There you go. This has been in the budget, I've looked at past budgets, this has been in the budget several years.
3 that I know of, yeah.
Yeah.
And now that we have the roof and the termites taken care of, we need to move on with it. And council members don't have to crane their necks to look at this presentation, as same with the citizens. We can get a direct feed to the TV. We can improve the audio. We can move this giant box that's under this desk over here that is the control panel for the audio. So we can improve public policy making and citizen participation with, frankly, a minor investment. We ought to get on with it. We do propose in this a City Hall remodel. This project has been in the budget a couple of times under different names as well. This time, we are recommending that we focus on the front counter and employee security and privacy. There are important transactions that happen there, often contentious transactions, and we need to provide support for our community, our customers, as well as our employees. We do want to provide an additional workstation in that common area. And those of you who've been in the city manager's office know it sure would be great to improve the sound attenuation coming in and out of that office. So that's in that project. And under our obligations to the Hollister Fire Department, we are obligated to continue with fire station upgrades, including improvements in the apparatus bay itself as well as the living quarters.
Getting back to streets, is there anything about the tabletops on 4th?
The tabletops are in the existing budget.
Oh, okay, right, they are, yes.
And Nordine split. He and I were going to talk about it if we could do so tonight. That project, unfortunately, has been the victim of 2 kinds of transitions of city managers and transitions of city engineers. But we're going to get it under contract this fiscal year, so it's not in next year's budget.
Thank you.
We talked about the master plans, and that's going to be in water and sewer. And the master plans would help us identify where and when and under what circumstances we might be able to install solar, for example, at the wastewater treatment plant. We want to know where all the major pieces of equipment and treatment trains are going to go before we start putting things that might end up being in the way. So what's not in the budget? A couple of things that are important. A 5-year capital improvement program. It would be appropriate, once we have these master plans in place, to lay out 5 years' worth of projects. We know the funding sources and we know the project priorities. I was hopeful that we could do that, but it became pretty clear pretty quickly that we didn't have the data and the understanding of the major needs to accomplish that. So next year, the new city manager may be able to present you with a 5-year capital improvement program. What's not in the budget? Across the board salary increases for staff. I may have punted a little bit here, but it seems to me, given my short tenure with the city, that it's appropriate for the council in the course of the workshops to consider what your policy priorities are, what your policy is about financial resources and condition. I think it would be appropriate to provide for an across-the-board increase for employees, but that's something you need to determine as part of your larger budget discussions. And as you also learned, what's not in the budget is the financial support for the community organizations. And what's not in the budget, at the back of the book are 2 or 3 short white papers about important issues that impact the budget. In the course of the workshops, you may identify others that you find of interest. And this is what I want to make sure you all are familiar with. If I can steady myself here. The new city manager may have a different perspective on a lot of these issues. So I want you to be open to additional recommendations in the course of the year and in next year's budget. The process, we recommend it tonight. We're hopeful you'll schedule workshops. There'll be a public hearing on June the 18th, and we hope adoption of the budget based on the results of your workshops. And the new fiscal year begins on July the 1st. And if you have any questions that I can answer, I'd be happy to try.
So how many meetings should we have with the workshops? How many work?
Two of your colleagues have been through budget workshops in the past. I have not here with San Juan, so it kind of depends on how you want to break down the issues. Do you want to look at capital projects in one meeting and the operating budget in another? Do you want to look at the utilities in one? And it's what's of interest to you. But I would think 2 workshops, you could probably accomplish what you need to accomplish.
That's what we had last.
And then the 2 are open to the public? The public
Oh, yes.
comes?
These will be public meetings open to the public. There'd be no action taken during the budget workshops. You might develop consensus that you would later act on June 18th.
I believe it was you, Mary, who asked me one day several months ago what was the fewest number of people we had in the gallery, and for one of those budget workshops, I told you the number was 0. So.
Okay. Any discussion?
Oh,
Do we
yeah,
have any
right.
discussion?
I'd like to make the motion that we keep Ed in our meeting.
Yeah. I'll second it.
We'll chain him to the.
Mayor, if I could,
I
if can,
second
point of personal privilege, a second meta comment. The staffs that have worked for me over the past 45 years would be absolutely shocked that this PowerPoint presentation didn't have a line graph or any number in it.
You dumped it down for us. We appreciate that.
Okay, do we have any public comment? If no public comment, we shall move on to establish a schedule for budget workshops as needed. So we have we're going to schedule 2 budget workshops. We need dates on that. I don't have my calendar, so I'll have to go along with you guys.
Anytime before June 18th.
An evening,
We have 2.
workshop evening, or what?
Well, if we make it evening and make it more accessible to
To the
general
public.
public, so I say 6 o'clock,
Okay.
yeah? You want to suggest some dates there, Dan?
Well, we're 22 now. No, I'm sorry, we're 21. So next Tuesday is the last Tuesday of the month, and then we're into June. And then we've got the 4th and the 11th prior to. So how about Tuesday, June 4th for the first one? Huh?
Yes, that would be planning commission.
It can be the 18th barrel or something. Is it really planning commission? Sure.
It's the first Tuesday.
Well, we don't have to meet here. We can meet at the library.
We can go, how about Wednesday the 5th?
I won't be here, but that's okay. I won't be here the 5th.
I know, yeah.
I'm going to Texas to a funeral from the 5th through the 11th. of
Why
June.
don't we have it on the 4th and meet in the library?
Yeah, we can do the 4th. I'll be here.
All right.
Is that planning commission?
Yes. Yeah.
So.
It'd be at the same,
will be here.
it would be tied on city staff too. You know, we need to consider that.
But then people can't be in 2 places at the
Oh,
same
that,
time.
yeah.
The 28th and the 11th then? Unless we do it on a
How
different
about-
day than Tuesday.
How about Thursday, the 6th?
I think Thursdays are.
Oh, you're going to
much
be
better
gone.
than-
When do you come back?
I come back on the 11th.
And then the approval meetings the following Tuesday, the 18th.
Can we meet on Monday, the 3rd?
I can, yeah. Well, you had the 4th. I'm still here on the 4th. I'm leaving the 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's planning
Well,
commission.
but
Oh,
I'm
okay.
thinking
So you
we
wanna
can
do it on
meet
the 3rd?
The 3rd of June,
Okay, that's a Monday.
okay?
You want to meet here or at the library?
Here.
We can meet here.
Okay, council chambers,
6 PM.
6 p.m. When's the next one?
Want to do it the following Monday?
He's still gone.
I'm still
Oh,
gone.
you're gone. The 17th?
I'm okay with that. Well, then the following the 18th is a meeting, so.
Want to do it then, the 17th?
Well,
6
we're
p.m.?
gonna there'll be a hearing to adopt it on the 18th, so you guys.
want to have the first hearing, have first budget workshop and determine whether you need a second
Oh,
And
yeah,
okay.
that's a good one.
All right.
Yes.
If we go
Okay.
We'll knock it out on the 3rd.
Yeah,
All
we
right,
will.
let's do that.
Stay there till midnight.
They're not as thrilling as you think. They're pretty cut.
Okay, we're establishing
Okay,
a
good.
schedule for the budget workshop, which will be on June 3rd, Monday, here in the council chambers at 6 PM. At that time, we'll determine whether we need a second one,
Okay.
okay? And then the hearing set for June 18th to adopt the budget,
Okay.
okay? Any other comments?
On that agenda item?
Pardon?
On that agenda item?
Any item. We're done with this one, right?
Yeah.
We'll just comments from city council.
I had one. I'd like to request that at the city council meeting for June, I'd like an opportunity to put something on the agenda for discussion and show a brief video. And I'll give a preview. It is the thought. Everybody ready for this? San Juan Bautista have a ban against single-use plastic.
Oh. Good idea.
Good.
And I noticed with interest today, Hardeen's has switched to paper straws.
Good.
A few places
Yes.
have.
You guys notice that also?
On the one hand, we're just little San Juan Bautista. We're not going to make a dent in the millions of pounds of plastic that's floating around in the ocean, but I
Yeah.
think it's symbolic. And I think us being so small also has an advantage in that it's pretty doable. Windmill has plastic bags for groceries, but they have paper too. And I always request paper. And the video I want to show you is from an organization I belong to called the Plastic Pollution Coalition. It's pretty compelling. Jeff Bridges does it. It's like 2 minutes long.
Oh, wow.
It's fine.
I'd like to talk about that a little bit.
Just put that on the agenda.
All right.
For,
Nice. Cool.
okay.
And
Very
then-
good.
Plastic is the one substance that the earth cannot digest.
Right.
That's right.
And look at us.
Every piece of plastic that was ever created, ever, still exists on
We
this
need to bring our own bottles of water.
A lot of it is in the ocean too.
Yeah. I'd like to put something, or ask staff, city manager, if we could have a report for our June meeting on the commercial nodes that are being put along Highway 101. I would like to know what impact or what benefits these nodes are going to have in what they're building. If it's actually being developed, what kind of development will there be?
That's a county issue. That's part of their budget.
But it's,
General plan.
but we have people that are concerned here in San Juan, because it's going to, if they have, whatever they do over there, it will have an impact on us, or maybe it'll benefit us, I don't know.
As long as we get a big neon sign that says, take a right onto San Juan Bautista, that'd be great.
And then the other thing that I want to point out, and I don't know if there really isn't anything that we can do about it, I don't know. I walk in the mornings, and there are many people who are not stopping, and it doesn't matter what stop sign. On 3rd Street, I was coming down Monterey Street, I almost got hit. I had to stop to let some car go past me. And, nobody is stopping at the stop signs. Whether it's early or late, I've seen people they just run right through them. They don't stop. So I don't know what we can do about that.
Could we possibly, might be a budget item, but investigate cameras that take pictures of the license plate as you run the stop sign?
That's an awesome idea.
Radar.
San Francisco last weekend, the Waze app says camera thing ahead.
I know my daughter
not sure
got one of
that's
those and
legal,
she
though.
denied it, and I showed her the picture. That's you driving behind the.
Can I make a comment on the cameras?
Sure, go ahead.
When Jan McClintock was our city manager, she looked into that, hired or, consulted with firms, and I think they determined that we didn't have enough, that it wouldn't generate enough revenue for a company, to pay for it. But
that was a long time ago. She was
yeah,
here
it was quite a few years ago. Right.
And it's a safety issue.
Yeah, it's a
It is,
safety
it's a-
issue as opposed to revenue.
What,
Okay, just
what
thought
I'm
I'd give you some
concerned about
background.
is somebody getting hurt, and we don't want to have someone get hurt, or, have a crash or whatever. We need to do something about it.
We'll make the tickets expensive enough to pay.
Exactly.
All right, any other comments from city council? How about city manager? How about city attorney? Okay, in that case, the chair will entertain a motion to close
I
this
make a
part.
motion to adjourn.
Adjourn, second?
Okay, second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor respond by aye.
Thank you all for, thank you all for those who stayed.
Motion carries. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Dan.